It was almost 1300, so I hurried off to the conference room to meet with the director. I was a few minutes early and waited in the halls for Charles, me son, Diana, and Colonel Rage to show up. Once they were all there, we all went in together. Glee Wixix was about 4.5 feet tall and pale blue in color. The center of her face was marked by nasal slits without a nose, and beneath that she had a long mouth with thin lips. Her ears were large and pointed, and they jutted outward like a bat's. She had no eyes that I could see, but a cluster of waving sensory tendrils, like a patch of thin sea anemones, protruded from the top half of her face. She had been sitting at the table reading through texts on her data bracelet, but when I opened the door she rose and made several complicated gestures, which I presumed were some sort of greeting.
"Mr. Reynolds, it is a great pleasure to meet you."
"Thank you," I said. "I get the feeling there aren't a lot of beings who feel that way."
"Beings who know the truth, and who are not pursuing their own agendas, most definitely feel that way," she said. "But they are few and far between."
I introduced her to the others from Earth, and once bows, handshakes, and friendly hand waggles were all exchanged, the director gestured for us to sit. We had only just taken our chairs when the doors opened, and Captain Hyai entered the room.
"Director, honored guests, may I sit in?"
"Of course, Captain,"
the director said.
"I was under the impression that your duties did not permit you the time."
The captain folded his curious body into a chair.
"That is a great deal of administrative work to do," he explained. "But as this matter is so important to the Confederation, I would like to observe. I am here to be of service, but, well, if I can, but no more."
Once we were settled, the director launched in without further delay.
"I am sure you have been briefed on the state of our current relations with the Phatic Empire."
"Your Mr. Urch told us that you've got them cornered," Colonel Rage said. The director's sensory tendrils waved in the colonel's direction.
"For now, we do. These young people from your worlds helped to make certain that we are in our most advantageous position in more than a century. They have saved us from decades of war and quite possibly from the end of our civilization."
"I appreciate your saying so," I told her. "I have to admit I hated that we were treated like criminals after we tried so hard to help the Confederation. But I have a feeling you didn't come all this way to set the record straight."
"Sadly, no," Gleewixix said. "You are here because our intelligence suggests that the Phatic threat, while temporarily contained, is far from over. The danger to our culture and to your world remains quite real."
I felt that twisting feeling in my stomach again. I guess it had been too much to hope that the fads were really out of the picture. "Okay, I understand that's not good," I told the director, "but I'm not sure why you need me."
"It has come to my attention," Gleewixix explained, "that in addition to the skill tree that has been part of our culture for countless generations, there is a secondary skill tree developed by the formers. This one designed for military application."
"It came to your attention because of my father," I said. "He's the one who found out about it, and he's the one who was desperate to make sure that the right beings took action, since he was afraid Junip would bury the whole thing. He had also told me he'd stolen a copy of the tech tree, so why didn't Gleewixix know about it? Maybe after they had locked him up, he hadn't known who in the Confederation he could trust. Still, something didn't seem quite right to me."
"I do not dispute that it was your father who brought us word of it," the director agreed. "The intelligence he provided was of the greatest value. Were it not for your father, we would not know that the Fads have already acquired this technology to begin accessing the skill tree. This threat will manifest itself not this year or next, but over the coming decade. Whatever advantages we have gained in ship's technology may well be negated by Phatic mastery of former military skills. While we bask in our success, you may be sure they will come to develop new military technology. I have urged our defense committees to investigate in the same, but I have encountered a great deal of resistance, all of which means that in perhaps 10 standard years, the fads will reappear on the galactic stage, and we will be able to do little more than slow them down.
Sounds like you need to put some pressure on your politicians, Colonel Rage said. And you need to get your hands on this technology, level the playing field. From what I hear, it's this idiot Junip who's your problem. Why not fix your problems in-house? The director moved her tendrils in a rapid rippling motion.
Junip is not an idiot. He and I were once friends, and I believe he is still a good being. But he has allowed his ambition to cloud his common sense. He will yet come around, but for now he has too much influence for me to pursue a purely political solution. That is why I have chosen to pursue other goals.
And in order to accomplish these goals, you need some middle school kids from Earth? Does that sum things up? Colonel Rage asked.
First, you must understand that we believe there are software copies of the skill tree hidden on Confederation Central itself. If we can find them, we can completely nullify this phatic advantage. The galactic threat will remain contained.
But why do you need us? Misun asked.
There are parts of the station that have fallen into disrepair. We are not particularly proud of them, but they exist.
I nodded. I remember Dr. Rook told me about them.
There is an even more dangerous area to which all access is denied,
the director said.
This is known as the Forbidden Zone.
The Forbidden Zone, Charles cried.
This is like the original Planet of the Apes. I enjoyed it immensely.
It's a classic, I agreed, only mildly irritated that he had beaten me to the punch. Glee Wixix made some sort of gesture with her hands. I could only guess it was impatience.
This area contains an outpost located below the surface of the station that has not been visited in centuries, at least not by citizens of the Confederation. Every child born in our culture is implanted with nanites that track that being's location. This is to prevent the children from becoming lost. When a being comes of age, those nanites are neutralized for privacy reasons, but residual traces remain. There are security measures at the entrance to the Forbidden Zone that detects and blocks any beings who retain any trace of these nanites. In other words, in order to gain access to this area, we need the service of beings not born to the Confederation. In light of past events, such as your leading the team that brought us the stolen phatic cruisers, I thought of you as being uniquely qualified to offer us assistance.
I said nothing for a moment. I'd been fetched from my backwater planet because I didn't have a child safety chip. There were lots of beings all over the galaxy who met that criteria. I didn't see why I had to be the one to do this. Could you just use Urch and his people? I asked. There must be plenty of them who weren't born in the Confederation. Urch snorted in reply.
You may request that Mr. Urch accompany you, the director said. I have no objection, but the remainder of his kind cannot join the expedition.
Too many of them have been recruited,
Urch said in disgust.
by Junip's movement for peace. Having members of my cornivorous species as part of their organization helps disguise just how much they hate beings like us. Unfortunately, it's too hard to know who among the Vauclair to trust.
So much for that idea. But we're not professional soldiers, I pointed out. Did you ask the American government to help? I bet they'd be happy to send Navy SEALs or Special Forces guys to do this.
Colonel Rage is here to serve as military advisor, but to be honest, I could not convince the rest of the committee to agree to allow the armed military of a private world onto the station. With Under-Director Junip opposing my every move, this was as much as I could manage. I believe you can help us, Zeke. We know you and trust your motives.
I looked around the room. I wasn't the only one who clearly thought this idea was nuts. Charles, Niana, and Misun looked like they'd each taken a mouthful of rotten milk. Colonel Rage was sneering with disdain.
So, you want us to gain access to this lost part of the station, Mi-san said. A place that's completely invisible to your surveillance and inhabited by who knows what. And there we're supposed to wander around like idiots until we find some sort of software. We do have some idea where you should look, Glee-Wixick said. And behaving like an idiot is not advised. Within the Forbidden Zone is an ancient structure. This hidden fortress was, for many centuries, the place where the Formers stored their most dangerous weapons and technology. That is where you must go.